It is an absolute bloodbath in Montecito right now, and Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are watching their entire empire crumble before their very eyes. The news broke like a thunderclap between Christmas and New Year, a timing that absolutely reeks of calculated damage control. James Holt, the man who has been by their side since their royal days, the executive director of Archewell and arguably their most trusted ally, has announced he is walking out the door. And folks, this is not just any departure. This is seismic. James Holt was not some random staffer they picked up along the way. This man was featured in their Netflix documentary. He moved his entire family from the United Kingdom to Los Angeles to help build their American dream. He was there when they were still working royals, and he stuck around through every scandal, every controversy, every failed venture. For him to suddenly announce his exit now, after everything they have been through together, sends a message so loud that even the Sussexes cannot spin their way out of it. But here's where it gets even more devastating. James is not leaving alone. Just days before his announcement, we learned that Meredith Mains, their head of public relations, had already jumped ship after a mere 7 months on the job. And if that was not enough to make your jaw drop, reports confirm that 3 additional Archewell employees were let go in what the couple is calling a shift toward a new operating model. Let us be brutally honest here. When you strip away the corporate jargon and the carefully crafted press releases, what we are witnessing is the complete gutting of their organization. Sources close to the situation are not mincing words. One insider described it as a catastrophe of their own making. Another said it is never ever a good look in business, when basically your entire staff leaves at once. And they are right. This is not normal restructuring. This is not a strategic pivot. This is an organization in free fall, and the people who built it from the ground up are fleeing like rats from a sinking ship. The timing of these announcements is particularly telling. Releasing this news during the quiet period between Christmas and New Year is a classic public relations move designed to bury bad stories when fewer people are paying attention. But the strategy has backfired spectacularly. Instead of sliding under the radar, the exodus has become the story. Royal watchers, celebrity commentators, and industry insiders are all asking the same question. What on earth is happening inside that Montecito mansion? Archewell, the foundation that was supposed to represent Harry and Meghan's fresh start, their chance to prove they could thrive outside the royal system, is now reportedly down to just 1 or 2 employees. 1 or 2. Let that sink in for a moment. The organization they launched with such fanfare, such promise, such righteous indignation toward the institution they left behind, has been reduced to a skeleton operation. But the staff exodus is just the beginning of this unraveling story. And what insiders are revealing about why everyone is running for the exits is even more explosive. When James Holt's departure statement hit People magazine, it read like a love letter written at gunpoint, every word dripping with praise, every sentence carefully constructed to paint the rosiest picture possible. But royal insiders and industry veterans are reading between the lines, and what they see tells a very different story. In his official statement, James waxed poetic about his time with the Sussexes. He claimed that from his first project with Prince Harry, 8 years ago, working to improve mental health support for soldiers in the British military, to their recent work helping injured children in Gaza, Harry had consistently challenged him to think bigger about making a difference. He described Meghan as a kindred spirit, someone who finds joy even in difficult moments and connects authentically with people regardless of circumstance. Sources close to former Archewell employees are practically choking on their coffee reading this. One insider put it bluntly, "The Harry they describe in that statement bears no resemblance to the man people actually work with behind closed doors." Another source was even more cutting, suggesting that Harry can hardly string a coherent sentence together, let alone inspire anyone to think bigger about humanitarian efforts. These are harsh assessments, but they come from people who have witnessed the Sussex operation firsthand. The timing of James's departure raises enormous red flags. He claims he wants to move his young family back to London after 5 incredible years in Los Angeles. On the surface, this sounds perfectly reasonable, but insiders are asking a crucial question: why now? Why, after half a decade of dedication, after uprooting his entire life to follow the Sussexes to California, is he suddenly desperate to return home? Word on the street suggests the real reasons have nothing to do with homesickness. Reports indicate that working for Meghan and Harry had become increasingly untenable. Sources describe an environment of constant chaos, shifting priorities, and impossible demands. One former associate allegedly compared it to working in a pressure cooker, where the temperature keeps rising, but nobody is allowed to acknowledge the heat. What makes this departure particularly damaging is who James Holt represents. This was not a junior staffer who got overwhelmed. This was their longest-serving confidant, someone who believed in their mission from the very beginning. When your most loyal soldier decides to retreat, it speaks volumes about the state of the battlefield. The statement also included a telling detail that many overlooked. James mentioned he would continue to guide various humanitarian trips overseas through their philanthropies. In other words, he is not cutting ties completely. Some speculate this is strategic, a way to maintain a positive reference while creating maximum distance from the daily dysfunction. Others suggest it is simply damage control language designed to make the split look amicable. Harry and Meghan's response to his departure was notably generic, praising his enthusiasm and talent, while announcing he would remain a senior philanthropic advisor. But actions speak louder than press releases, and the action here is unmistakable. Their inner circle is collapsing. And James was not the only one who had finally reached the breaking point. If James Holt's departure was a bombshell, then Meredith Mains walking out the door was the explosion that shattered every remaining window in the Sussex operation. This woman lasted a mere 7 months. 7 months trying to polish a brand that seemingly refuses to be polished. And she had simply had enough. Meredith was not some inexperienced newcomer hoping to make a name for herself. She was a seasoned public relations professional with an impressive resume and a stellar reputation among her peers. Industry insiders describe her as someone who does not complain and just gets on with the job. The fact that even she could not survive the Sussex tornado tells you everything you need to know about what happens behind those Montecito gates. According to reports, the final straw came during what has become known as Photogate. When Meghan and Harry attended Kris Jenner's Christmas party, the Kardashians innocently posted photos from the event. What happened next allegedly sent Meredith over the edge. Sources claim the Sussexes demanded the Kardashians delete the images, creating an awkward situation with one of the most powerful families in entertainment. For a public relations professional trying desperately to rebuild bridges in Hollywood, watching her clients burn them instead must have been absolutely maddening. But Photogate was merely the final domino. Throughout her brief tenure, Meredith had to navigate one disaster after another. There was Harry's disastrous interview following his security case loss, where he threw what many described as a televised tantrum, calling the outcome a stitch-up job. There was the infamous baby twerking video that left viewers cringing. There was scandal after scandal, controversy after controversy, and through it all, sources say Meghan and Harry refused to listen to professional advice. The contrasting statements following her departure speak volumes. Harry and Meghan released something cold, clinical, and remarkably brief. Meredith Mains and Method Communications have concluded their work with Archewell. The Duke and Duchess are grateful for their contributions and wish them well. That is it. No warmth, no elaboration, no acknowledgement of the challenges they faced together. Meredith's response was noticeably different in tone. She spoke of inspiring work, expressed gratitude and respect for the couple, and mentioned pursuing new opportunities. Public relations experts recognize this pattern immediately. When the departing employee sounds warmer than the employers, it usually means the employee did the walking, not the other way around. What makes this situation even more damaging is the broader context. Meredith was the 11th communications professional to leave the Sussex operation in roughly 5 years. 11 people in 5 years. That is more than 2 per year, a turnover rate that would send any human resources department into crisis mode. Yet Harry and Meghan continue operating as though the problem lies with everyone else. Industry insiders have started calling them the bosses from hell, and that reputation is spreading through Hollywood like wildfire. Agencies that recruit top talent are reportedly warning their clients about what awaits anyone foolish enough to sign on with the Sussexes. But the pattern of departures reveals something even more troubling about what is really happening inside Archewell. 11 public relations professionals in 5 years. Let that staggering number sink in for a moment. 11 people who walked into the Sussex operation, believing they could make a difference, and 11 people who eventually walked right back out, presumably counting their blessings. They escaped with their sanity intact. At some point, you have to stop blaming the employees and start examining the employers. The pattern is impossible to ignore, no matter how much Harry and Meghan might wish it would disappear. When one person leaves a job, it could be a mismatch. When 2 people leave, perhaps the role was poorly defined. When 3 people leave, maybe the working conditions need adjustment. But when 11 people flee the same position in rapid succession, the common denominator becomes glaringly obvious. The problem is not the staff. The problem is the people signing their paychecks. Sources who have worked closely with the couple paint a picture that is equal parts chaotic and suffocating. Meghan, according to multiple former associates, is described as a controlling micromanager who wants everything done her way regardless of professional expertise. One insider put it perfectly: why do you hire people with expertise in their fields and then proceed to tell them how to do their jobs? The whole point of bringing in professionals is that you trust them to execute their craft, but trust appears to be in short supply behind those Montecito walls. Former staffers have allegedly described an environment where nothing is ever good enough, where goalposts shift constantly, and where the blame for failures always rolls downhill. When the twerking video flopped, it was the communications team's fault. When Harry's interview backfired, the public relations strategy was wrong. When product launches crashed and burned, someone else must have dropped the ball. Never once, according to sources, do Harry and Meghan look in the mirror and acknowledge their own role in these disasters. The situation has become so notorious that industry recruiters are reportedly struggling to find candidates willing to take the risk. One source described the challenge facing agencies. You present this opportunity to a client, and the first thing they ask is how many people have already quit. When your reputation precedes you in that way, attracting top talent becomes becomes nearly impossible. What makes this pattern even more frustrating is that Meghan built her entire pre-royal career on public relations. She reportedly spent almost every dollar she earned from suits on crafting and promoting her image. She understood better than anyone how crucial good public relations work is to building a brand. Yet somehow she seems incapable of letting professionals do the job she once invested so heavily in. Harry, meanwhile, had a brilliant public image before his marriage, carefully curated by the palace's world-class communications team. He was the cheeky prince, the military hero, the people's favorite. All of that goodwill has evaporated under the current regime, and sources say he seems either unwilling or unable to recognize why. But the staff exodus reveals something even darker about the future of their entire operation. Buried within the carefully worded announcements about staff departures was a detail that should alarm anyone paying attention. Harry and Meghan are transitioning Archewell to what they call a fiscal sponsor operating model. For those unfamiliar with non-profit jargon, allow me to translate. They are essentially washing their hands of the day-to-day operations of their own charity. A fiscal sponsorship model is an arrangement where a charitable project partners with an established non-profit organization to handle the tedious work, collecting donations, distributing funds, managing administrative operations, providing strategic support. All the unglamorous labor that actually makes a charity function gets handed off to someone else. What remains for the founders is simply the clout, the photo opportunities, and the ability to claim credit without doing the heavy lifting. Sources close to the situation are not fooled for a second. One insider described it bluntly. This is what organizations do when they are winding down or when the founders want distance from the actual work. Another observer put it even more harshly. They want the humanitarian awards without the humanitarian effort, the optics of running a charity without the inconvenience of actually running it. The irony here is absolutely staggering. Just weeks before gutting their organization, Harry and Meghan received yet another humanitarian award, this time for mental health advocacy. They posed for photos, delivered speeches about their commitment to service, and basked in the applause of an adoring audience. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, they were preparing to lay off staff and fundamentally abandon the hands-on approach that supposedly defined their mission. What does this mean for the initiatives they have championed? The Parents Network, which supports families affected by online harm, now faces an uncertain future. Who will manage the day-to-day outreach? Who will coordinate with grieving families? Who will ensure the work actually continues? With Archewell reduced to 1 or 2 employees, these questions have no clear answers. Industry experts are reading this restructuring as a massive red flag. When founders distance themselves from their charitable ventures, it typically signals one of 2 things. Either the organization is failing financially and they want to minimize their exposure, or the founders themselves are preparing for significant personal changes that require simplifying their joint assets. Neither interpretation bodes well for the Sussex brand. The shift also exposes a fundamental contradiction in their public narrative. Harry and Meghan left the royal family claiming they wanted to do things their own way, to have the freedom to pursue meaningful work without institutional constraints. Now they are outsourcing the very work they claimed the palace prevented them from doing properly. They wanted independence, and they have used that independence to step back from the responsibilities they insisted on taking. Perhaps most damning is what this says about their commitment level. Running a charity requires dedication, sacrifice, and genuine passion for the cause. Transitioning to a fiscal sponsor model suggests that dedication has waned considerably, and the financial pressures driving these decisions may be even more severe than anyone realizes. Follow the money. It is the oldest advice in journalism, and when you apply it to the Sussex situation, the picture that emerges is deeply troubling. The staff layoffs, the organizational restructuring, the desperate pivot to a hands-off charity model. Sources say all of it points to one uncomfortable reality. Harry and Meghan are feeling the financial squeeze, and they are feeling it hard. Their Montecito mansion reportedly costs a fortune to maintain. Property taxes alone on a multi-million-dollar estate run into the hundreds of thousands annually. Add security costs, staff salaries, maintenance fees, and the lifestyle expenses befitting a couple who still believe they deserve royal treatment, and you are looking at a monthly burn rate that would make most executives sweat. The problem is, the income to support that lifestyle has not materialized the way they expected. Netflix, their supposed golden ticket to financial independence, has delivered underwhelming results. Their documentary generated initial buzz but failed to become the cultural phenomenon they anticipated. Meghan's recent cooking show reportedly attracted modest viewership at best, a far cry from the blockbuster numbers needed to justify their rumored $100 million deal. Industry insiders suggest the streaming giant is growing impatient, and future projects are far from guaranteed. Spotify famously parted ways with the couple after their podcast venture produced minimal content for maximum investment. The as-ever lifestyle brand has stumbled from one embarrassment to another, with product launches generating more mockery than sales. Speaking engagements, once a reliable income stream, have reportedly dried up as organizations question whether the Sussex brand adds value or merely attracts controversy. Against this backdrop, the decision to lay off 3 junior senior employees takes on new meaning. These were not voluntary departures or strategic repositioning. These were cost-cutting measures disguised in corporate language about redundancies and operational shifts. When you cannot afford to pay your staff, you find polite ways to show them the door. What makes the financial situation even more uncomfortable is the charity photo opportunity that occurred just days before the layoffs were announced. Harry and Meghan gathered their Archewell team for a volunteer event, smiling for cameras, projecting unity and purpose. Sources now wonder whether those employees knew their jobs were about to disappear. Did they participate in a publicity stunt for bosses who were preparing to throw them under the bus? The optics are absolutely terrible. One royal commentator posed a devastating question. Would those staff members have volunteered their time for a photo opportunity if they had known the entire organization was about to be gutted and their roles made redundant? It is a question that speaks to the transactional nature of how the Sussexes allegedly treat the people around them. Useful when needed, disposable when inconvenient. The financial pressures also explain the increasingly desperate quality of Harry's solo ventures. Real estate conferences in Canada, surprise appearances at random events, the constant search for anyone willing to pay for the Sussex presence. It reeks of hustle rather than strategy. And Hollywood has taken notice of this desperation in ways that are devastating their future prospects. There is an unwritten rule in Hollywood that everyone understands instinctively. Nobody wants to be associated with failure. Success attracts success, and failure repels it with equal force. Right now, the Sussex brand has become toxic in entertainment circles, and the cold shoulders are multiplying faster than their staff departures. When Meghan and Harry first arrived in California, doors flew open everywhere. They signed with WME, one of the most powerful talent agencies in the world. Netflix handed them a reported $100 million deal. Spotify came calling with another massive contract. A-listers wanted to be seen with them. Party invitations flooded in. Hollywood welcomed them as conquering heroes who had escaped the stuffy British monarchy to join the land of dreams. Fast forward to today, and the landscape looks dramatically different. The Spotify deal collapsed in embarrassing fashion, with executives reportedly describing the partnership as underwhelming. Netflix projects have underperformed expectations. The As Ever brand launch became a case study in how not to introduce a lifestyle company. Meghan's cooking show generated more eye rolls than viewers, and through it all, the celebrity friends have quietly distanced themselves. Sources say the problem is fundamental. Public relations can only take you so far. It can open doors, secure introductions, and generate initial interest. But once you are in the room, you have to deliver something of substance. You have to prove your worth. And according to industry insiders, Meghan has consistently failed that test. One entertainment executive allegedly put it bluntly: every door has been opened for her, and she has walked through with nothing to offer. The comparison to other celebrity trajectories is illuminating. When someone gets a massive platform through fortunate circumstances, they can either build on that foundation with talent and hard work, or they can watch it crumble beneath them. Meghan had advantages that most aspiring entertainers would sacrifice everything to obtain: royal connections, global name recognition, unlimited media attention, and access to the highest levels of the industry. Yet somehow she has managed to squander all of it. Her Paris Fashion Week appearance captured the disconnect perfectly. Dressed in what observers described as an outfit better suited to a 70-year-old woman from Florida, she seemed completely out of touch with the world she desperately wants to inhabit. The Balenciaga Association raised eyebrows given that brand's controversial advertising scandals. Every choice seemed calculated to generate attention, but succeeded only in generating ridicule. Harry, meanwhile, has essentially abandoned any pretense of a Hollywood career. His memoir sold well initially, but generated more controversy than goodwill. His interview appearances have become exercises in complaint rather than charm. The cheeky prince persona that once made him beloved has been replaced by something bitter and aggrieved. Talent agencies are reportedly warning clients about Sussex associations. The calculation is simple. Attaching yourself to a failing brand provides no upside and considerable downside. Why risk your own reputation to help people who cannot seem to help themselves? But the professional collapse may be masking something even more significant happening within their marriage. Royal watchers have learned to recognize the warning signs when celebrity couples are heading towards separation. The patterns are remarkably consistent. Joint ventures get dismantled. Professional lives start diverging. Public appearances together become rarer. And somewhere along the way, the shared home goes on the market. With Harry and Meghan, several of those boxes are already being checked. The gutting of Archewell is particularly telling. When married couples share business interests or charitable foundations, those entities often become the first casualties of a relationship in decline. Dividing assets is complicated enough without active joint ventures muddying the waters. By transitioning to a fiscal sponsor model, by laying off staff and reducing operations to bare bones, Harry and Meghan may be simplifying their shared portfolio in preparation for what comes next. Sources have noted something curious about their recent arrangements. Harry is maintaining his own communications infrastructure in the United Kingdom and Europe, separate from Meghan's operations. details. His spokesperson will continue handling his press matters independently. Why would a happily married couple need entirely separate public relations operations on different continents unless they are anticipating spending significant time apart? Their public schedules have also diverged noticeably. Harry has been jetting around the world on solo ventures, Canada for real estate conferences, Ukraine for charitable photo opportunities, various engagements that conspicuously lack his wife's presence. Meanwhile, Meghan focuses on her California lifestyle brand, her cooking show, her Instagram content. They orbit the same sun but increasingly travel in different trajectories. One royal commentator offered a sobering observation about celebrity divorce patterns. When famous couples start selling their home, divorce papers typically follow within months. Harry and Meghan have not listed the Montecito mansion yet, but insiders suggest they should be watched carefully. A house going on the market would be the clearest signal that the fairy tale has reached its final chapter. The performative nature of their public affection has also raised eyebrows among observers. The constant hand-holding, the lingering gazes, Meghan calling Harry "my love" at every opportunity. It all feels choreographed rather than genuine. Sources note that these displays happen almost exclusively when cameras are present. When they think nobody is watching, the dynamic reportedly shifts considerably. Some analysts point to Meghan's historical pattern in relationships. According to biographers, she has never jumped from one ship until the next vessel is secured. She was allegedly still with her previous boyfriend when she began pursuing Harry. If that pattern holds, any marital separation would likely be preceded by Meghan quietly establishing her next chapter, whatever that might look like. Harry, for his part, seems to be building his own escape route. His focus on United Kingdom and European operations, his maintenance of relationships with former royal-adjacent contacts, his attempts to position himself as a global humanitarian figure independent of his wife. It all suggests someone preparing alternative paths forward. The marriage may survive, of course, but the structural changes happening around them tell a story that words cannot easily contradict. And through it all, the royal family watches from across the Atlantic with strategic silence. Across the Atlantic, the royal family is watching the Sussex implosion unfold, with what can only be described as strategic silence. No statements, no interventions, no attempts to help or hinder, just quiet observation as Harry and Meghan's carefully constructed empire crumbles from within, and that silence speaks volumes. King Charles has reportedly made a calculated decision to let events take their natural course. Why intervene when your problem is solving itself? Every staff departure, every failed venture, every public relations disaster reinforces the narrative the palace never needed to articulate. The institution was not the problem. Harry and Meghan were the problem. Their struggles in California validate everything the royal family could never say publicly. Sources close to the palace describe a mood of vindication mixed with sadness. There is no joy in watching a family member fail so spectacularly. Charles reportedly still hopes for reconciliation with his younger son, though those hopes dim with each passing controversy. But there is also recognition that Harry made his choices, and those choices have consequences. The royal safety net was withdrawn when Harry withdrew himself from royal life. Prince William's position is reportedly more hardened. The brothers' relationship remains fractured beyond any immediate repair, and sources suggest William views the Sussex chaos with something approaching relief. Every headline about Archewell staff fleeing or Meghan's brand failures is a headline that does not attack the working royals. The contrast between the disciplined Wales household and the chaotic Sussex operation could not be more stark. What the royal family understands, perhaps better than anyone, is that helping Harry and Meghan now would only enable further dysfunction. The couple has demonstrated repeatedly that they interpret kindness as weakness and support as submission. Any olive branch extended would likely be snapped in half and used as ammunition in the next interview or documentary. Silence is the safest strategy. The staff exodus actually serves palace interests in subtle but significant ways. For years, Harry and Meghan blamed the royal institution for their struggles. The courtiers were incompetent. The system was suffocating. The media operation was inadequate. Now operating with complete independence and unlimited freedom, they have burned through 11 communications professionals in 5 years. The royal household, by comparison, maintains stable long-term relationships with its staff. The contrast demolishes the Sussex excuse factory. Royal commentators have noted another dimension to the palace strategy. By refusing to engage with Sussex drama, the institution denies Harry and Meghan the conflict they seem to crave. Their brand depends on positioning themselves as victims fighting against powerful forces. When those forces refuse to fight back, the narrative collapses. You cannot be David if Goliath simply walks away. Princess Anne continues her hundreds of engagements annually without fanfare. Prince William and Catherine focus on meaningful charitable work without constant publicity seeking. The institution carries on, demonstrating through action what Harry and Meghan only promised through press releases. The message from the palace is clear. We will be here long after the Sussex circus folds its tents. But what does the future actually hold for Harry and Meghan now? As the dust settles on this catastrophic staff exodus, the question on everyone's mind is brutally simple. What happens now? The Sussex brand lies in tatters, their organization gutted, their Hollywood dreams fading, and their marriage under unprecedented scrutiny. The road ahead offers few obvious exits and even fewer soft landings. Archewell, in any meaningful sense, appears finished. Sources suggest the foundation will limp forward as a shell organization, useful for tax purposes and occasional photo opportunities, but stripped of any genuine operational capacity. The philanthropic empire they promised when leaving royal life has been reduced to letterhead and memories. Perhaps Archie and Lilibet will inherit the responsibility of running what remains, a bitter irony that has not escaped observers. Harry's future seems increasingly disconnected from his wife's trajectory. His focus on United Kingdom and European operations, his maintenance of separate communications staff, his cosplay royal routine overseas, all signs point to a man building an independent identity apart from the Sussex partnership. Whether that means formal separation or simply parallel lives conducted from the same address remains unclear. But the unified front they once projected has cracked beyond repair. His desperate attempts to remain relevant on the world stage grow more uncomfortable by the month. Speaking at Canadian real estate conferences, inserting himself into Ukrainian humanitarian efforts, chasing any opportunity that comes with a paycheck attached. The prince who once had the world at his feet now scrambles for relevance like any fading celebrity watching their moment slip away. Meghan faces her own reckoning. The lifestyle brand that was supposed to establish her as the next Gwyneth Paltrow has become a punchline. The cooking show failed to capture audiences. The Instagram comeback generated mockery rather than momentum. Every door that Hollywood opened has slowly swung shut, as executives recognize that star power without substance eventually burns itself out. Her historical pattern suggests she will not accept defeat gracefully. Reinvention has always been her strategy, shedding old identities and relationships when they no longer serve her purposes. The question is, what comes next when you have already played your highest card? She married a prince and still managed to fumble the opportunity. What possible next chapter could surpass what she squandered? 2026 promises more turbulence for the couple. Financial pressures will intensify as income streams continue drying up. The Montecito mansion may indeed hit the market, triggering the divorce speculation that already swirls constantly around them. Netflix will demand returns on their investment or walk away entirely. And through it all, the royal family will watch silently, vindicated by every Sussex stumble. The fairy tale that captivated the world in 2018 has become something else entirely. A cautionary tale about ambition without substance, grievance without gratitude, and freedom without responsibility. Harry and Meghan wanted to prove they could thrive outside the royal system. Instead, they have proven only that the system was never their problem. Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.